Well, you can't work the land without running into rattlesnakes, at least in southwest Nebraska. They are a crawling landmine, a deadly creature that we kill every one of. My father told about one of his more deadly experiences with a rattlesnake. He was driving a tractor back in the 1940s, similar to this one. And as the tractor's wheels was spinning around, it took and it picked up and had a rattlesnake on it, a big one. And as it got up to this height, he was sitting here and the rattlesnake struck at him. The only good thing is it struck high toward his face more than his side. If he'd have struck at his side, he'd have got bit. But he struck at his face and just barely missed him as the snake went on over as the tire spun around. He slammed on the brakes then, and the snake got off to the side, and he stopped the tractor and went out. He always carried a spade on the shovel or on the tractor and killed the snake then. But that was as close as he said he's ever come. He said within inches of being bitten in the face or by a rattlesnake. And it was, a terrifying thing, and it was a continual thing. You never knew where or when they would show up. It's kind of like a landmine. When you're walking out in a wartime, you never know when you're going to step on one, because they're just as a landmine is hard to find or see, a poisonous snake is also deadly and hard to see. I also remember that I had a great uncle back near World War I that was farming, and he had seen a rattlesnake, and so he killed it. All he had was a stick, and so he beat it to death. And he reached down to pick it up because it was a great big one. He was stretching it out. It was probably all of 4 foot long. And as he stretched it out, the snake had been playing dead. And so it bit him in the armpit. It just snapped up there in the blink of an eye and hit him in the armpit. Of course, he dropped it, and back then there was no anti-venom, and he was 38 and never lived beyond that. He died. And poisonous snakes are always something you want to keep in mind. The snake is never safe until that head is cut off. And even then, the head is not safe, because even a dead snake with its head cut off, the head cut off part can still bite and inject venom. Some say 30 minutes, some say an hour. I'd say don't even mess with it days after. Just leave it alone. Because the venom itself, they say, takes over a year to deteriorate in those fangs. And that's how deadly a creature it is. Some people will try to tell you that poisonous snakes will rattle before they bite. Of course, that's the biggest lie of all. The last 5 I've killed in the last few years, not one of them rattled. And they will quite often let you walk right over them. And so I'll tell you this last snake story, though I have dozens of them. A friend of mine had his tractor broke down, needed a part. So he went over to the pickup, got in the pickup, went to town, got the part, came back, and he was mad about the whole thing and the cost of it and everything. Parts are terrible, expensive for tractors. And so as he was walking across the field, he got halfway across the field and he realized that he had the part, but he had forgot the tool to put the part on with. And so he turns around and he's cursing God and he's mad at the world, and he's walking back, and then he looks down and he realized that a snake had been stretched this way and he'd walked over him. He had stepped literally over a large rattlesnake. The snake simply didn't do anything. Now, some snakes on some days will ignore you until you step on them, and then they'll bite you. Others, if you get within 15 feet of them, they're striking at you and charging you. I've had it happen. But anyway, so he went around that snake and went and got the shovel along with his tool and killed that snake. But he said if his step, as he was stepping, was a half a step off, he'd have stepped on that 4 foot plus rattlesnake, and a good chance that he'd either died or had to pay a $50,000 hospital bill to try to survive. So this is McCook's Mr. Bill, and here are just a few of my snake stories from southwest Nebraska.